underneath the subhead of fee increases.
I'll sit in for Anthony. I hope that's okay.
You betcha.
I think he's running late from a dentist appointment. I have not touched base with him about this, but this is my understanding of what the proposed amendments look like so far to the FY25 proposed budget. Council, of course, can offer feedback or offer more amendments, whatever you'd like to do. And I'm happy to explain any of these amendments. The first one was pointed out by our city attorney. The bid assessment revenue and the UMP TIF was supposed to end in the current fiscal year, so I need to take that out of the revenue for the 25 budget. The second bullet, there was a capital project sheet that was proposed by a staff member, and I think there was some confusion on whether or not it was supposed to be a match from the state, so they're withdrawing that project, and I'll let Anthony. Oh, okay. And then there was a discussion with city manager and the IT department head about some needed funds for ongoing software maintenance, some increases for our software maintenance, $233,000. An increase, and I think there's a question on this, so I'll let Anthony weigh in, but increase, as far as I can tell, there was not anything added to the fiscal year 25 budget for the second year of the transit program, the microtransit program, apologize. So it looks to me like we need to increase those allocations by $630,588 for Taylor's estimate for year 2 of that program. And then increase capital project allocations in the capital fund by $968,883 to stormwater project DR 0062. And that was the amount that was transferred out of that project from ARPA funds to the ECOC project to fund the storage facility this fiscal year. So we're replacing those funds. And that project, actually, I should have included in there is the Imhoff, what's that called?
The Cedar Lane,
It's the ARPA project, Imhoff.
Imhoff Creek,
Drainage project.
Creek stabilization.
Yes, thank you. I was not prepared to be sitting up here today. And then,
And I was not prepared to sound like Mushmouth.
No,
a
you're
little
all
bit,
right,
but you're
On the
okay.
Cosby Show.
Not as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
but we feel your pain.
Okay. I haven't had feelings in like 35 years, so this is,
And then, the utility department head would like to see a reduction in sewer fee revenue and, the water reclamation fund. We kind of, I think, projected a 3.6% increase from, current year actuals. That was too high. So he would like us to reduce the sewer fee revenue down to current year estimates, and that's a $1.7 million reduction. So I think at this point, we'd love to get your feedback or any other amendments you'd like to offer up.
and just know that these are things that have been suggested or, they don't necessarily have to come forward. And if they come forward, they don't necessarily have to be approved. But
Correct.
these are just things that,
Well, obviously, if the bid assessment quits this year, we can't count it as an input, and so that kind of makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It, and not doing a project makes sense. They seem to balance each other out, so. Some IT, we had remember when IT came in here and made their presentation, we said yes?
Yeah,
We did
changing yeah,
yeah, that was a different thing.
Right.
That was a different thing? Okay,
this is on top or separate from that change,
And those allocations, that change is in the capital fund, this would be in the general fund.
which was 5%, right?
Correct, yeah. I think around $800,000.
what is Rapid 7? That's probably asking the wrong people, but
Rapid 7.
Rapid 7 software, VMware,
I don't know
virtual.
if Tim's here. I don't know the specific software or what it does. I just know that they said that it's required for them to.
I believe it's security software.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
sir.
the virtualization, I don't have any idea though.
The transit one, so, I think I was under the impression that it was, council, we had agreed to do it another year. And I guess I thought that was before the manager's budget came out, so I thought that was included. And then the part where transit doesn't need a subsidy from the general fund, so
Yeah,
got kind of excited about that, so now it does.
Now it will.
Just about 350,000 though, because they did have a $337,000 reserve budgeted or projected for fiscal year '25. So it'll just be the difference.
So not 630,000?
No, just about, I'm sorry, 300,000, yeah.
Okay. Maybe we can talk about that at CPTC next Thursday with Taylor and make sure that it's including the changes that we wanted made at the service area and all that stuff. If this cost includes those changes we asked for, so maybe we need more info first, but we did say we wanted to do it again, but I don't know if I was expecting to have to
Pony more.
only up 300,000 or 600,
I
yeah.
think the confusion there was a 1-year delay in the start of the program. The first year, the funds were added via amendment for fiscal year '23. And then '23, they did the consulting. And the program didn't actually start until '24, and those funds were rolled forward to '24. So that's where I think the confusion came in, whether or not we added them already in the budget. So, but I believe that this 63588 would be to keep the program the same as it is this year. So I'm not sure if that includes any additions that you all proposed.
They told us the cost of the changes we asked for was 60,000. So don't know if, I do want to keep it going, but I would like to get some more clarity from Taylor before we decide that.
Yeah, what timeline do we have for June, I guess is the answer.
Well, the contract renewal is up now, so,
Okay.
if it's decided to move forward, then yes, we would get that in. We would not necessarily have to budget for it, but I would prefer to.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we agree that we table that one and let Stephen get more information, and it'd be next month, I guess?
Next Thursday we'll.
Yeah, but by the time it comes
Oh,
back to
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Or do you want to give him
I would,
tacit approval as long as he sees?
maybe if the CPTC committee is, after we discuss it, is good with going forward, then it can go into the budget go in for the budget meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's legal. Okay. Let's do it that way and just speed up time.
We also had at the public hearing, the gentleman that talked about installing fare boxes and starting to charge fares. Don't know if you all want to discuss that now or later. We don't necessarily have to budget for that. But I would assume that the purchase of the fare boxes would be out of the general fund, and you start to charge fares. But that is not something that we have done or contemplated in the past, so.
Do you think that don't remember what he thought that initial cost would be if we took it out of the general fund?
I'm not certain what that cost was going to be per bus. I wasn't involved in those early conversations. I don't have that information with me.
We did discuss,
2 or 3 years ago, the number that I recall was like $600,000.
we did discuss it last month at CPTC.
Oh, okay.
After Dan Munson brought that up.
Yes.
At the previous council meeting. We did discuss that. Taylor did talk about the transit plan that was done when we took over the system, and they did look at that. And their determination was that the fare wouldn't make enough over the lifespan of the equipment to pay for the equipment before we'd have to replace it or update it with new software and the accounting that would go with it. So it was one of those things where it was like, it'll cost us more money to charge a fare than the fare will generate. And so they recommended that we don't do it, but they said that it's something we should review on a regular basis, though.
Yeah, and my argument back was everywhere else, not everywhere, but that's too broad, but most everywhere else that you go, they charge a
Yeah,
fare.
we're one of the only systems in the country that
So
does.
there's gotta be some kind of fallacy to the argument that it doesn't pay for itself.
Well, they all lose money. There's
Oh.
not a single transit system in the United States that
A lot of
is a
places-
revenue generator.
That's correct. Now, a lot of places, the fare box is part of the purchase price of the bus itself.
Got it.
So to the extent that the bus itself is a money loser, it's just a little bit more of a money loser.
So, yeah, it's I think it's something we do need to, the council needs to review on a regular basis as the system grows, as Norman grows. But currently, yeah, we didn't see a need to either because the dedicated sales tax and the was covering the entire cost of it. And the federal funding and the dedicated sales tax is covering the cost of the system. So there didn't really seem to be a need to charge a fare either currently. And take on the cost of updating all the buses and everything. But we did discuss that if anybody wants to go back and watch it on YouTube. Okay.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And then reduction of sewer. I still don't understand what he's asking to do. He says he wants you to come off 3.6% to go to whatever is actual, which is undetermined.
He just believes that the projected increase is probably not realistic.
Okay. Oh,
Sewer, all the utility funds have kind of been growing at the same growth rate as Norman's population, with the exception of the sewer fund for whatever reason. So he would like to see no increase to those revenues.
okay. Another,
So can you talk a little bit about the stormwater project, the increase of 968,000? Can you give a little bit more background? Because you mentioned transferring ARPA funds.
So that project received $3 million in ARPA funds. And it kind of got a little bit of a slow start because, and Scott would know a lot more about why that was. There's applications they had to do. They applied for some grant funding. But I know that they just kicked off the project. But the ECOC needed the $968,000 for their storage facility now. It was an eligible use of the ARPA funds. The ARPA funds, recall, they have an obligation deadline and then a spending deadline. And so we were sure that we could spend those funds with the ECOC now. We weren't sure if we would spend them all by the December 26th deadline with the other projects. So we transferred them to the ECOC, and we of course need to replenish that transfer with this project so they can complete it.
Thank you.
If that makes sense.
yes, sir.
So the UMP bid is for sure dissolving?
I
No,
believe that was
the
part of the.
current one will certainly expire.
Okay.
They're working on a new petition for a
Okay.
new bid, but it's not for sure yet. The timing of it will be after June 30th, so.
Okay. So the businesses are planning to keep. Good, okay.
And when they do that, say there are funds that they have in their bid funds. When a bid dissolves, do they have to do something with those funds, or can it just wait until the next?
It can usually be used for any of the previously approved costs. In this case, it'd be like maintenance of Legacy Park and public rights of way in University of North Park. But if those things were all to go away, then it could be used for any city purpose. They become city funds.
Oh,
At this point, we would assume it'd be for maintenance of Legacy Park.
I would. It just, it's their money. I forget when we were talking about that, but it seemed like there were gonna be two bids, but you think it'll be one larger?
At least currently, the current business improvement district goes all the way from Robinson to Tecumseh, and we would assume that the new one would as well.
Yeah. That's good news. So, yes,
I
sir.
will say Tim came in, so what is Rapid 7?
Yeah, rapid,
Rapid 7 is our cybersecurity scanning software. It replaced, a year ago, it replaced an older system that we had that was a little bit cheaper. This one was $93,000 annual, but it gives us a little bit more, gives us more reporting. And so basically, if there's a detection, correct, like comes into the system, it has a detection method where it will tell us immediately, as opposed to us going and combing through our logs and stuff like that. So that's something that we agreed upon last year. It just wasn't added into this coming year's base budget. So that's why that was part of the base budget request. There's some other stuff in there. That was $300,000, but Broadcom purchased our virtual services software. And so what we use that for is we virtualize all of our servers. We have over 200 servers, and that would be like a pizza box size piece of equipment. So there'd be rows and rows of this equipment if we didn't virtualize it. So it's a virtualized machine. It's very small now, and it's the footprint that it takes up and the electricity and all that other stuff that it takes up is very small. Well, Broadcom purchased that software and said, all these places have this infrastructure. They're not easily going to be able to move out of that infrastructure, so we're just going to hit them with a 100% increase in maintenance fees. So we went from $70,000 annually to $140,000 annually. And there's no way of backing out of that infrastructure because all of our servers are virtualized now. So, and it's just another one of those businesses that's went, good way to make some more money off of these people.
yes, sir.
Well, on that subject, Netflix yesterday released a 3-episode series about the Ashley Madison hack that happened a couple years ago where 36 million users of that site had all their information exposed, and some very prominent people whose basically just lives were destroyed because they were on that site. So it's just about cybersecurity and how it happened, and it's real fascinating. So continue to think that's one of the most, if not the most pressing, like public safety matter is that cybersecurity and data breaches. So, the only other one, Jazz and June had made a late request
Oh, yeah.
for funding from the city. They were asking for $20,000. Has the city been a sponsor of Jazz and June like that before?
Not directly. The Arts Council through the room tax does support them, but the city does not directly from the general fund.
Well, it was a request from Norman Hammond and their committee, so told them I'd bring it up and let us talk about it. My kind of thought on it is that their first time asking, we gave NMF $10,000 last year. It was their first time asking. I don't know if there'd be interest in that or not, but I wouldn't mind having the City of Norman logo on the Jazz and June stage, though.
Is that gonna cost $10,000?
I don't know what
Pretty
the
high dollar logo.
sponsorship levels are, but yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to discuss it, but I think it'd be fair if they also submit the documentation that we've asked of other entities. But I will say, I know that for Jazz and June, I think some of this is insurance costs for them. And since PD is here, do you all do security for Jazz and June?
It's not as impactful as the other areas, but they hire, if I recall correctly, and I haven't managed that event in a few years, they hire some officers private to deal with like their cash management and the stage area, but then we do bike patrols and stuff, and that's increasing now, but it's at Andrews Park versus like a Brookhaven,
Yeah.
which is a little bit bigger problem.
So they're not really like a
Insurance.
for-profit entity, so insurance costs are kind of, I think, worth the
Have risen
money.
significantly, is what Norman was explaining.
But good to have documentation that shows that that's what
And I don't know if he
request is
sent it
about.
to everybody, he sent it to me and you, I think.
Yeah.
And I thought it was sent to city staff too, but
I got it. My thought was that because of the increase in hotel motel tax, all the rest of that, there's already money flowing in there. And we're tight for money. And so
yeah, if
that's,
yeah. Do we know how much might be going to them through that?
I know that the maximum amount that the room tax can be granted was increased to 30,000, and I think they get the maximum amount.
So Jazz and June might have gotten a $30,000 increase in their budget?
No, a total of 30,000
A total from the,
from the Arts
so
Council.
they were getting some, they may be getting up to, okay. Maybe we can clarify that with them.
Yeah.
yeah, and that was just my thing.
So,
Software so
yeah,
expensive.
with the increase of the hotel motel tax. For the nonprofit arts, they get the hotel motel funds. And now we're gonna start opening the door of other funds. Maybe do we need to revisit the discussion on the allocation of the hotel funds? I mean,
Well, we'd have to go back to the.
I don't understand. Yeah,
that's-
I'm just gonna have a real issue with funding.
We're on the
Yeah,
same boat.
historically, we've kind of drawn the line with, is it a facility, a building that the city owns? The general fund gives money to Sooner Theater and Firehouse Arts Center and the Historical Museum, basically because those are buildings that the city owns and we're giving them operational support from the general fund. But yes, the requests for additional funding from the general fund for Sooner Theater and
Firehouse art.
that was Firehouse Art increased their amount of subsidy from the general fund. But the new one from, I'm forgetting the one, the museum, the Weather Museum, asked for funding. And there was another one that was new, but.
Main site.
Norman Music Fest
Yeah,
made a
they
formal
increased theirs
request.
as well, yeah. So again, that's new. These are not facilities that the city owns asking for general fund support.
I mean, I understand that expenses go up and it goes up for everybody. And so maybe they need to revisit their budgets, maybe do an analysis where they can cut their expenses.
Or
I
raise
mean,
the revenue.
we all only earn so much income. So whenever you only have a limited amount of income, you kind of got to revisit your expenses and find where you can cut things. That's just the way it goes. I'm sorry, I will have an issue besides the traditional ones. Like Anthony said, I'm going to have an issue with giving any general fund dollars to the nonprofit arts organizations that get hotel funds. I'm just putting that right there, right now. I will have an issue with it.
Definitely don't disagree. I think when other I understand the part where we own a building or something, but when other organizations see that we increased the firehouse budget from 60,000 to 120, doubled it, then they're like, oh, well, our event generates way more revenue for the city of Norman than the firehouse does. We're not getting anything from the city government. So they, understandably are like, hey, we do all this, we bring all this attention to Norman and bring all these visitors and tourists in. And if they're getting a massive increase in their budget, can we get a little bit of that too? So I understand for sure where Councilman Montoya is coming from. I think that's, and I don't think you're wrong at all. I just think they're seeing us do that. And again, we own that building, we own the Sooner Theater, so I see where that makes sense. But you can see how they're like, hey, well, we do a lot for the city. What can we? But yeah, they should be able to self-sustain too. And for the most part, they always have, I guess, so.
I pulled up what he sent to us. So Listed under festival underwriters, it's Norman Arts Council at 29,000, Chickasaw Nation 25,000, Oklahoma Art Sector ARPA 25,000, Schwartz Family Foundation 20,000, and then we're a line item in blue, like if we did do it. City of Norman 20,000. They say festival funders, Oklahoma Arts Council organizational support 16,000, major funders, Armstrong Bank, 2,500, Kirkpatrick Foundation, 2,500, Arnell Family Foundation, 2,500, Day Funders, O&G, 1,000, OG&E, 1,000, OEC, 1,000, First United Bank, 1,000, miscellaneous donors, 146. 5. Maybe that's like the subtotal of all those. And then they do list out like what they expect their concert sales, activities, fundraising programs. I guess they could head up others in the community too. But yeah, what does it mean when they list you as the underwriter? Or
I'm assuming
grant
it's different
underwriting?
levels of support, yeah.
I mean, I wonder, are sponsors not sponsoring thing? I mean, has there
They've-
been an impact in
they
getting
said since
sponsorships? Are they
COVID.
trying to get more sponsorships? Are there more grants to be applied for to get additional revenue? I mean,
They've all been saying that since COVID, they've seen a drastic decline in donorship. I mean, not just those events, but nonprofits across the board, apparently.
And that's where that Arts ARP money came in.
And I will say, their fundraising programs, Friends of Jazz in June campaign, festival audience contributions, so Bucket Brigade, they list that at 14,000. But I don't know if they gave us like the year before, like what they raised.
Is there any way,
I
I
can
don't know,
like,
with their insurance, since that seems to be like a driver of cost for them, I don't know, is there any way to help them out in that situation? I don't know, through the city?
And taking liability
no,
on
we-
ourselves.
Just because it's in a city park is what I'm wondering. So
No, that's usually when you rent a city park, that's one of
you
the
have
things
to
you
have your
have
own
to.
deal, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. It is tight for everyone, so.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, I think some more information about that, and maybe we need to
yeah, maybe
revisit
maybe
how that's
a
actually being done.
comparison. So,
Yeah.
like 3 years prior COVID and 3 years up to date.
Yeah,
And when I say financial statements, I am referring to balance sheets and income statement. Not just the balance sheet, not just the income statement. And I hope they tie.
and I'd like to see how much each organization is getting from I guess through the Arts Council, but from the hotel motel tax, and how much that's gone up or decreased over the last few years.
I know we had a conversation about tickets, and because I thought, well, maybe you ought to sell tickets, but they've always prided themselves at being free. Well, maybe COVID changed that, maybe just stuff changed that, maybe we can't do it that way. But that's not ours to figure out, that's theirs to figure out, how they want to stay solvent. Ours is to say whether we want to pony into the pot, so. And my answer would be no, but.
Okay, yeah. I told them I'd bring it up, so
Okay.
we can talk about it. And they can ask every year if they want to.
Yeah. Oh, well, asking usually doesn't get you hurt.
Yeah.
Any further on these amendments or things that you need to bring up that we forgot about?
I'm just asking a clarifying question. These are just for like city staff budget amendments, not the other ones.
Some came from council members.
Oh, so that
But
two,
no, these are mostly staff corrections and
I didn't know if I saw your email back or not, but, so that two-way main study,
yeah, that's in the budget already.
Okay.
The design of it and the exploration of doing the project and gaining public support for whether to do it or not is an ongoing discussion.
Yes, sir.
The animal welfare increase, was that able to get pushed onto the budget before it had to go to amendments, or is that missing from this list?
No, that got included in the city manager's budget.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
All right.
That was the only position that was added.
I'm going to move on to item 2. Discussion regarding monthly revenue and expenditure reports. How
I
flat?
wanted to just touch briefly on Councilmember Grant's
No.
fee increase. And you'll recall that back September, October, this committee had requested a review of ongoing fees. We gave you homework about the background for the various fees and that sort of thing, and Councilmember Grant actually did her homework. And suggested about 3 areas that we review and perhaps increase fees. One being the noise variance fee, one being the short-term rental fee, and one being the fee for those scooters. And so those have been staffed out, and we will be doing, and that doesn't necessarily have to be budgeted for. There might be some ordinance changes, but most of them are administrative, so just let you know that that's ongoing.
So if there was a fee thing, because it's incoming, it doesn't have to go into the budget?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Well, sound great ideas. All right. Now do we want to move on? Just, you can tell us it's flat?
It's flat. The sales tax for May was actually down about 2%, but for the year, we're down about 0.4%. So again, we're flat, but flat at a high level, as was pictured in your budget document. So I won't say we're not concerned, but we will continue to monitor. And again, as long as there's no big -3s and -5s or something like that, then we should be okay.
This month didn't have the charts and just it had the city-to-city comparison, but not the
Oh,
bar graph. And all that, you know.
Yeah, I suspect that that'll be coming out here in the next few days.
Okay.
It probably was not ready for the packet. Kim was cruising.
I don't know.
That's all I have, sir.
yes, sir.
So Anthony, off the top of your head, on the use tax, what trend have you noticed over the past, all right, we're in 2024, maybe past 5 or 6 years, just off the top of your head? Is it it's
It's
increasing, right?
increasing substantially. There was again, when the Wayfair case became effective, there was a exponential increase, about 30%, 40% in 1 year. Since then, it's continued to increase at about 15% per year, and that's held true this year.
And how does that compare to the general fund increasing? So are you seeing it increase, the
That
use
is a
tax
general fund
increasing more,
revenue.
whereas
But no, that's
normal
higher than
sales
most of
tax?
the other.
Okay, I meant sales tax,
Yeah,
sales versus
that's
use
higher
tax.
than the rate of growth of sales tax, except for in that 1 year of 2021 fiscal year where we had a sales tax increase of 20%. But other than that, yeah, use tax grows faster than sales tax over the last, I'm gonna say 15 years.
And there is no federal legislation regarding that, we just have the Wayfair
Not that has
case.
passed, there has been federal legislation proposed, both on the Senate side and the House Representative side, but that has not passed,
All right, so the only teeth we have is the Wayfair case for right now.
yes.
Okay.
And you used to talk about how the difference being millions versus hundreds of thousands, general or regular sales tax, I guess, versus online. Is it still, or is it?
It's still about the same, yeah.
People would think that the
I really,
growth
you know-
in people would think that, would be under the impression that sales tax revenue online would make up for the loss of brick and mortar sales tax, and
No, it does
doesn't
not.
generally.
Yeah, this chart that's in the budget document on page 2 of the city manager's letter is really telling what Councilmember Holman is talking about. But the red bar is use tax, the blue bar is sales tax. So you see that even though the use tax is growing more rapidly, it's a relatively small revenue source compared to sales tax. It's a good chunk of money, but it's still not, sales tax drives the boat.
Yeah. So people need to, even though we're getting sales tax from online, people really need to
Shop
go
local.
shop in
local.
person. Yeah, yes.
All right, any other further questions for Anthony, or?
Yes. The, is there any update on potential expenses regarding Griffin Park and Sutton Wilderness Library, anything like that? That stuff that's just out there that is
Well, yeah,
expensive. That we're like, we have a lot of money, but we might not have any money.
Way
so-
different answers to those two different questions. I'll turn it over to Catherine to talk about anything related to the library and the potential legal action related to that.
Over here, sit down, So as far as Griffin goes, we still haven't heard anything. We understand the legislature, particularly the Senate Budget Chairman, who was recently removed, now the Vice Chairman's the Chairman. That's one of the gentlemen we had met with about Griffin and Sutton. They're undergoing all of their budget discussions for this legislative session. We're thinking there will be something that comes out of that related to Griffin, but we don't know what that is yet. We do believe the state recognizes that their appraisals are probably not where they thought they were in terms of actual value of selling that property. So we hope to get some movement there, but we just don't know what the timeline is. As far as the library goes, you all authorized hiring outside counsel a couple weeks ago. We've met with them, we're sharing documents with them, and we kind of have our initial plan going forward to get ready for talks, but we don't have an estimate yet of what that might cost, what the cost of remediation would be. We do have a plan to get that, so that we will know what we need from the parties in the issue. And so we'll continue to work on that. We just don't have a number yet.
No official litigation has
No
been
litigation,
initiated.
right. Right. Not yet.
And I would ask for continuing direction about, we have been working under the assumption that council wanted to get the repairs done and get the library back open as quickly as possible. And Anthony's job was to find the money to do that, to upfront the money while we're waiting on the settlements of lawsuits and that sort of thing. But if the amount to be found is a lot more, and we have to wait for the settlements before we get the library back repaired and open, I want to make sure that that's your understanding and your direction is that, how much money is too much for us to get the repairs done up front before we get any legal settlements.
That's that old car problem.
So there's no, I know we're self-insured, so there's no like insurance for a building like this? If something
No,
happens to it? I mean,
we-
what if a
We
natural
do have building
disaster
and
hit it?
contents insurance, but
Okay.
it does not cover mold.
But if it had been hit by a tornado,
We'd be covered.
We would be covered,
We'd have $1 million deductible, but we'd be covered.
but the mold issue is not
The
something.
mold is not covered.
I mean,
If there was a fire, we'd be covered.
it's hard to say what number is too much because it can't, like, we can't just let it be there empty for years if it takes that long to potentially have to go litigate, hopefully not, or to come to some settlement. But that's, yeah, I mean, just the numbers you guys have thrown out of what it might cost is large.
Break us.
And that's really our next step, is to get a better handle on what that number might be, and I think that'll probably inform that determination by council. If it's a number we can reach, that's one thing. If it's not, that's another. So we're working on that now.
But the deficiencies in the envelope outside haven't been fixed, right? So it does still get water inside it.
And they're having to
I'll
go
ask
back in.
Jason, is that,
Oh, Jason.
Correct, and we don't, it's complicated, so, It is not fixed. We need consultation and participation from both our contractor and architect to get it fixed. That hasn't happened yet. So we don't have a roadmap to fix the building as of yet.
Duct tape.
Just go on every
Maybe
single.
a national duct tape shortage.
Flex
if we
seal.
went that route.
Yeah, Flex Seal, we could do that. Well, those are the two biggest,
Yeah.
like, outstanding, because it's like, we have this budget surplus, but we have at least those two potentially very large expenditures that we don't even know, so.
I will just say, I think we'll have a handle on Griffin before we will the library. I'm making you nervous.
Yeah, thank you.
But I just think we know the cost of Griffin, we know the appraised value, and so it's just a matter of the state coming to the table and recognizing that. There'll probably be a third-party appraisal, that's fine, but I think we'll know that pretty quickly.
Okay. What is the current surplus, if you know offhand?
Make sure I'm giving you the correct number. We're projecting at the end of this fiscal year for it to be right at $10 million.
The end of June?
Yes.
10 million. Okay.
It's not very thick.
Yeah, when, you know, we as Catherine says, we kind of know the number to purchase Griffin and Suttonland, and it's like $6 million. So, if we just had an agreement with the state, go buy it, we'd go buy it, and that would reduce that to about $4 million.
Would you not bond the purchase of property? A geo bond or something like that?
Well, geo bond would have to be voted on by the people, but could you bond it? Yes,
Okay.
if the voters approved it.
Norman Ford that was to purchase it. So some people are already under the impression that we already bought it, but then they didn't want to sell it to us. So we did the lease thing, yeah, so.
And our lease payments reduce the purchase price.
I'd be concerned that some residents, maybe many, would think, well, I already voted for us to buy it, what happened? Then we could explain it, but, yeah. Or is there revenue? I hate to do that sort of because of the having to pay interest on that, but like revenue bond based off of?
Backed by Norman Forward or backed by?
Backed
It would depend on the revenue source to back a revenue bond, but yes, theoretically, you could do that.
Norman Ford?
Where you would have
Even though we
general
already used the
fund
money.
revenue to pay for it on a pay-as-you-go basis, you know. By city policy, you don't go into debt when you have money available to pay as you go.
Outright, yeah. Yeah.
But yes, theoretically, you could do that.
Well, I'll have to get a price first.
Yeah, something to think about.
Guess who's on deck? Next item is an internal audit program's status, please.
All right, so I know that city council is anticipating the audit report for contract K-2223-56. It is in the final stages of draft, and I still say draft because council has the authority to decide the corrective actions. City Attorney Catherine and City Manager Darrell have submitted their responses to my recommendations. Most of those recommendations are the decision has been deferred to council because it is mostly, contract amendments that I have recommended. Those contract amendments are based on compliance, operations, and financial matters. And we are expected to deliver that to you on Tuesday so that we can go through the study session and you can have the opportunity to reply, and then I can offer that report to the public. So to offer it now would offer it just basically saying, these are my recommendations, city attorney has said this, city manager has either agreed or added his conclusions to it, but then those recommendations and those responses have been deferred to you for your decisions. So we can't offer that to the public without city's council deciding what we're going to do about the recommendations. So Tuesday, hopefully, we can finalize that and offer it to the public on the City of Norman City of Norman website, and also do the next council meeting. As far as the internal audit department, we are well underway in risk assessments for citywide, so all 13 departments. I'm now on second department, started with finance, now on HR, so I have about 11 to go. It's quite fun, and I hope to work together and mitigate these issues and have opportunities for improvement where they present themselves. So that is being informed by the completed IC assessments, internal control assessments that each department received and completed and submitted back to me. So, but I will be hopefully corresponding and meeting with the directors for their input on the risk assessments.
Questions?
I'm sorry, hopefully from there, we'll have a triennial audit plan, which is an audit plan that is for 3 years. City government just runs at a 3-year calendar, and we just believe it's more efficient to do a 3-year plan rather than an annual plan. But that 3-year plan will have annual updates as far as where we are in the status of each audit that has been lined out in that plan. Any questions? Yes, Mayor.
Moving along. That worked for me. All right, anything else, guys?
Sorry, I don't understand.
That was perfectly
I
timed.
can explain it again.
I don't think she
And then invited everybody to a party.
Yeah, that was well timed.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
It,